Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we have got some wind warnings issued over the next few days further northwards, as we are going to see some fairly deep areas of low pressure get close by. But because of the higher pressure further southwards, we're really only going to see the southern edge of the very strong winds. So that means parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe even stretching into North England, could see gusts of around 70 or 80 miles per hour for coastal areas. As we head through the next few days, it's going to be the recurring theme: unsettled in the north, drier and milder further southwards. We will still see areas of rain, but as I said, it will mostly be confined to those northern areas where the more unsettled conditions will probably dominate. But as we head into early February, there could be some changes coming. Now, I say could be because the models are a little bit all over the place with what's going to be happening around that 5th to 10th of February point. Quite a few runs are showing a continuation of the westerlies, but with a slightly altered southerly tracking jet stream, which would allow colder air masses to mix in. Some other runs, like the GFS today, are producing a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge and even turning into a little bit of a block and producing much colder and much more sustained colder patterns as we head to around that 8th, 9th, 10th of February. And even today, the GFS shows blizzard conditions for some as we head into the middle parts of February. Now, it hasn't got massive support from the ensembles, as we will see at the second half of the video, but it is a bit of a recurring theme, so we can't really discount it at this stage. But it shows you there is a lot of uncertainty as we progress into February, and a lot of the longer range seasonal runs are showing February as being a cold month, or at least cold weather within it. And that is something we'll look at in more detail in tomorrow's video, where we will do an update on a lot of the ECNWF weekly and monthly anomalies, and we'll be able to see that signal a little bit stronger. But I did want to point that out because that also gives perhaps a bit of substance to these colder patterns appearing on the GFS. But it's all still to play for, and we'll update that in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you do start on the live radar, you can see it's actually a fairly dry evening today. And we do have a few showers across Scotland, but most places really nothing at all. It is going to be fairly chilly tonight, as we have got some colder air still lingering behind that weather front that did clear through earlier today, that did dump a lot of rain across parts of northern England. Cold air drifting in behind that, but it has lost a lot of its intensity, coming into the warmer area of higher pressure. Over the coming days, we will see rain return, but as I said, it's most likely going to be across northern areas, closer to those areas of lower pressure. If you do put on the temperatures tonight, you can see where it is a little bit chilly across Wales, northern England, even into southwest England, and up towards Scotland, parts of the Republic of Ireland as well. Those lighter blues appearing, temperatures could drop down to freezing tonight, but by tomorrow temperatures will be rebounding as milder air moves back in. But we will see some reasonably strong winds tomorrow for parts of northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, and pretty much all of Scotland. Now, we've got this wind warning issued for most of Scotland, excluding the north of Scotland, which has got a separate warning. This extends to Northern Ireland and England, and it was updated earlier today. That's from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. tomorrow for very strong winds. We're looking at 45 to 55 miles per hour, maybe up to 65. So reasonably strong, but nothing too ridiculous. And you can see there will be some heavy rain, especially across western Scotland here. We're looking at high likelihood and lower end of the impact matrix. So it's looking like we will definitely be seeing some strong winds, but they don't look like they'll be too impactful, hopefully. Further northwards, we've got this wind warning issue for much of northern Scotland from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m, so a longer time period. And if we do have a look at the further details, we're looking at 65 to 75, maybe up to 85. So not only lasting longer, but the intensity of those wind gusts could be higher as well. You can see on the impact matrix it's low likelihood, or very low likelihood, and medium impact. So a higher impact potentially, but much more lower likelihood of that occurring. So we're looking highly likely we'll see strong winds, 50, 60 miles per hour, and a very small chance could up to 70 or 80. Now, if you go over to the UKV now and have a look at the precipitation, temperature, and those wind gusts over the coming days, you can see the rain clearing earlier this morning, and it's left us with a reasonably dry day today, but still quite a bit of cloud around. You see the next weather system moving into the north, into the early hours of tomorrow, starting to bring heavy rain in. It looks like a big wall of rain, but you see it does struggle to get much further southwards than northern England. But as it moves in, there could be a bit of squall feature along there. You can see that quite distinct line of orange or red there. That's a squall line or line convection, whatever you want to call it, along the cold front could produce even heavier rain and even stronger squally winds. That, as said, eventually moves southwards, losing a lot of its intensity as it pushes into England and Wales, but still could give a bit of drizzle through the evening hours. As we progress beyond that into Thursday, showers continue to push in further northwards, but not really anything too crazy, a few wintry showers mixing in there, and then eventually the wind veers more from a westerly, and we again see rain, but mainly for Scotland, as we've got higher pressure holding on further southwards for the first day of February. But with that sort of westerly wind, it's going to be fairly mild to start the final month of winter. You can see as we head into Friday, lots of drizzle and light patches of rain around, which gives the indication that the dew points could be fairly high. You can see that dew points up towards 10, 11 degrees potentially, and very moisture-laden air coming in straight from the west. So pretty mild indeed, but that sort of pattern, and that continues through Friday into the weekend, where things could turn slightly clearer as we see a little bit of chillier air moving in. If you look at the wind gusts as we head into tomorrow, you can see those strong winds pushing in. Could be pretty disruptive in places, especially across northern Scotland there. We could see 70 or 80. But you see these strongest winds do stay mostly offshore before eventually clearing through to Wednesday. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see through this afternoon, it's been a chilly day, maybe around the 7 to 9 degree point, but nothing too cold really for late January. Overnight tonight, a bit of an isolated frost around for northern areas, but by the late morning, temperatures will have risen as those upper temperatures rise as well. And by the afternoon, we're still looking average to above average here. As we progress through Wednesday into Thursday, chillier air moves back in again. Could see a frost to start the 1st of February. But by the afternoon, still a little bit chilly, but very mild area is moving in as we progress through Friday into the weekend. Could be looking at 10 to 13 degrees there. So perhaps the first day of February starts chilly for the first half of the day into the early afternoon, but by the evening it is turning much milder, especially for western areas, and that continues into the weekend, which is looking to be pretty mild indeed, especially further southwards. Further northwards, those cooler air masses could just about push back in. Now, if you go over to those longer range runs and see what they're showing today, as I said, the GFS shows blizzards and very cold conditions as we progress into February. I want to show you why that is occurring and why it's not occurring on other runs. So do run through this latest GFS. You can see westerly winds over the coming days. That's fairly standard with the models at the moment. But it's as we get towards sort of a week's time, look at that, we start to build a bit of an Atlantic ridge and developing towards Greenland. Now, at this point, we're not developing anything crazy cold initially, but it just shows you that the GFS is primed for more blocking already at day 6, day 7. Here, the high pressure is not too successful initially, but on the backside of this low that moves through in day 8, day 9, we start to draw in very cold air. Now, I must say, the Atlantic Ridge here is not particularly strong at all. It's not a massive block, it's not a huge feature, and that's why there's a lot of discrepancy, because it isn't a massive signal. But it occurs in just the right orientation, just the right way, that we see a low pressure right along the southern edge of that cold air and produce heavy snowfall across parts of northern Europe. Again, uncertainty how much snow you'd see, where the precipitation band would be. Would it be similar to a couple of weeks ago, where the winteriness goes all through France? Who knows? That's something would sort out near the time. But nevertheless, a very cold, very unsettled and wintry pattern here developing. I said it's not a sustained block, so milder air will move in eventually, but still got this ridge, so could see recurring wintriness, especially further northwards here. Look on those upper air temperatures. The cold air holds on further northwards, not so much further southwards. Further northwards, definitely, and there could be a lot of snow around, for eventually by the end of the run, we've got a pretty chilly north to northeasterly wind with a big mid-Atlantic ridge. So not a classic cold spell, not a classic big Atlantic or Greenland block, but a block that holds on, that hangs around long enough that we do see some quite cold and wintry conditions from this GFS run. Very interesting indeed seeing this today, and it has appeared quite a lot in the last few runs. Perhaps it's a GFS bias, or perhaps it is something the GFS is picking up on that other runs aren't picking up on. But we'll show you why there is a lot of discrepancy when we look at the ensembles. There is some support, but nothing too big. Now, if you look at the GM, see how that does compare. If we get out to sort of day 6, day 7, where we've got discrepancy, you could see we're not really seeing any distinct high pressure. Yes, a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge, some high pressure towards northeast Canada, but actually we're incredibly mild here for the UK. As we progress through the subsequent days, that low doesn't really move through as quickly, and that means no cold air gets drawn in. We actually stay fairly westerly all the way to day 10. Yes, the jet stream's southerly tracking. Yes, there was a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge, but this is more of a sort of an ordinary scenario where the low moves through, doesn't move through too quickly, allowing that northerly to push in, and instead it keeps us around average. If you look at the upper air temperatures, we are in and around average, slightly above, slightly below, and nothing too cold at all. Maybe a bit of snow further northwards, but generally would be pretty unsettled and turning us a little bit chillier. Whereas the GFS had that mid-Atlantic ridge stronger and had this low even further south and moving through a lot faster, allowing northerly winds to be swinging in by day 8, day 9. Instead of here at day 10, the low hasn't even cleared yet. So very interesting indeed. You can see the differences between the two runs, and you can see how the GFS does, get it to come off, but it does take some very specific scenario. And it is going to be one just to watch over the coming days. Now, if we finish up for the for the next sort of main operational run, we look at the latest ECMWF. The 12 o'clock is just updating, but it only goes out to 120 hours, unfortunately. And here you can't really see much. This is where we've got pretty good confidence. But if you do go to the midnight run, you can see that ECMWF not really interested either. And even less interested with no mid-Atlantic ridge at day 10, and actually replacing it with very deep areas of low pressure. This would be very unsettled, probably would have some chillier weather in it, as a lot of cold air is moving out into the North Atlantic. But by no means would this be very cold, by no means would this be wintry at all, with quite a far-fetched southwesterly appearing there at day 10. Just showing you the models are disagreeing quite significantly. I feel like I've been saying that a lot over the past couple of weeks just because we've had all these conflicting signals. And I have to finish by looking at the ensembles. These are the latest GFS, and you can see why we have got massive uncertainty. If I just refresh it there, you see some runs like the operational GFS go cold, up and down here, because for London, of course, we'll see milder sectors try and push in. You can see here quite a big milder sector moves in around the 8th of Feb, with cold air preceding it and coming after it. But you can see lots of discrepancy. Most runs, I must say, are average to above average initially before trending below average into the middle of the month, whereas the GFS and some other ensemble members do go quite cold. Maybe 5 to 10, so maybe a third of ensemble members go quite cold, if not very cold, in as soon as maybe 6 or 7 days' time. But the majority do keep us average to above average at this stage before trending colder into the extended range. Cumulative temperatures, massive discrepancy. Some runs dropping down to the low single digits, other runs a lot milder, and the dew points are even better indication of that. Some well below freezing, some well above freezing. Almost 15 to 20 degree contrast or discrepancy here in around 6 or 7 days' time from the GFS ensembles here. So it is going to be very interesting indeed to see what happens. I'm sure it will be resolved in the next few days, but it just shows you, even though a lot of people talk about mild, wet, windy, in from the west at the moment, things can change very quickly. But at the moment, nothing concrete. If you do compare to the ECMWF ensemble members, you could see they're not having anything really in the next 7 days. The majority of runs are all mild, flat, and fairly dry for London actually, with higher pressure moving in. So they're not really even getting the jet stream pushing further southwards. So ECMWF not even looking at it at all around the next 7 or 8 days. Around day 10 and beyond, definitely trending us towards average to below average. That's an agreement with the GFS. It's interesting that day 14 time frame is similar to the GFS, or at least similar with this uncertainty, but the sort of day 7 range is in complete disagreement, just showing you the big uncertainty we have about what is going to be happening, because There's a lot of complex drivers countering each other at the moment, and it just makes very confusing confusing trying to understand what's going on with the models. It's going to be one to keep a very close eye on. Very interested to see what the ECMWF comes out with in about half an hour's time for that day 7 to day 10 point. If it does start to show something a bit colder, then perhaps the GFS could be onto something. But if it's still going flat and westerly and not really showing much at all, then we'll have to question the GFS and see which one will come out on top in the next couple of days. I do suspect the ECMWF just because it's got the most ensemble support, and the GFS is known for being a little bit wacky sometimes, but cannot rule it out. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.